Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Conversations with a Recovering Loan Officer. And today I'm joined by a very special guest who I know and refer to as FM, but his name is Faramarz Moeen Ziai. Did I get that right?
Nailed it.
Yeah, I knew it. I should have just gone with it, not checked. Yeah, and we go back almost 8 or 9 years. I mean, when I met you originally when you were with Commerce, and you were our first big customer, I think, and at Pre-Approved Me, and that was kind of a surreal experience going down to your headquarters, traveling down there to visit, and I remember being super nervous walking in, and man, you backed us big time, so I appreciate you.
No, I've always been impressed with everything that you've been doing on your side, and yeah, I think it's great. And I didn't know that we were I knew we were an early adopter, and like I said, you really, having your loan officer experience, were able to really make something that catered and spoke to me. And I was I'm always an originator, even though I was sales manager at the time, so it really resonated with me. But yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about your background and like where you came from and your mortgage experience and all that good stuff.
Yes, I was born in the backwoods of Alabama, and I'm just kidding. So, my professional experience in mortgage started in 2003. Prior to that, I'd been in technology. Another reason why we kind of spoke the same language when you walked in. I was doing a lot of marketing consulting from the dawn of the internet for about 10 years, working with mostly Fortune 500 companies, but I managed a team of developers and programmers creating web applications and things like that. I was in the middle of doing another startup when my wife got pregnant with our second child, and we were living on some savings and her dental hygienist income at the time. And I told my partner, and we were halfway through our funding goal, and I told my partner that I got to do something by a certain cutoff date. And while we continued to try to build the company. And so I was thinking maybe realtor, stockbroker, insurance. And my cousin happened to be in the mortgage business. She said, I think you really love this. And I thought it sounded like death to me. I'd always been in sales, doing my own thing, and pictured people in a bank, shuffling paper and signatures and notaries. But I said I'd try it. So I went in and I was just kind of assisting her for a little bit just to get a feel for it. And I fell in love with it right away. And I saw that it's a very dynamic business. I saw that you really needed a wide skill set to succeed here. Not only do you need the math skills and the logical reasoning and thinking, you have to have a lot of sales skills. You're on your own. And that was the one thing that I probably was most attracted to at that time in 2003. We were all 1099. So you were really self-employed and you could run your business however you wanted. Yeah. So after a couple of months of that, I called my partner and I said, I think I'm going to be good at this. This is my career. I'm doing it. And so he and I parted ways very amicably, still one of my closest friends. And I jumped into it. And I guess out of a sense of desperation, I sent out this letter to everybody who I knew about, this is what I'm doing now. This is what I've learned. And I don't think I've ever had a month where I haven't done a loan from the beginning of the business. And so it just kind of went from there. And so that was 2003, 20 years ago. And, it's grown since then.
And so you made a pivot. You told your partner, I got to step away. Just curious, because, I'm obviously on the software side.
Yeah.
How did he fare?
He did okay. So it morphed. So what we were working on at that time was a digital video delivery system to high-end homes with a home-based server. This is pre-YouTube, right? And it was the beginning of a lot of digital audio and video content that was out just completely scattered on the internet. And this is when people were using Napster to grab stuff from wherever. And there seemed to be this market for a desire to have it all organized in one place. Now, you think that what's the big deal right now? You got to remember at that time, that was a major undertaking, right? Like to get a movie onto your home system, you had to have a really high-end system to be able to handle that and deliver that to a TV, right? Because you had to download it in its raw format. We were dealing with internet speeds, which were much slower than today, and CPU speeds, which were much slower than today. Like what we were trying to do on a massive box that we would install in a room with somebody, and at that time, the really super high-end homes had this wall of stuff that would feed the rest of the house, right? And our box would go in there. And you can do all that on your iPhone right now. So he started down that space, and then he actually did really well. The business itself morphed completely, and he got sucked into digital ad delivery and all that after YouTube came out and everything, and he did really well. Yeah, still working in that space and everything. That's probably why we're still such good friends. Like, I've done well, he's done well. Neither of us has become a billionaire yet, so there's no jealousy involved, but we've both done pretty good.
Well, that's to come.
Yeah, exactly.
It is a little easier on the software side. The multiple you get when you exit a software company is ludicrous. So
yeah.
It's just like the carrot that kind of keeps me motivated because, I do love mortgages and I'm very good at doing them. And so it's like there's a part of me that keeps drawing me back to the mortgage process, just getting out there and like meeting people and like making an impact on a family. And it's all really great. But then I'm like, wow, every minute I spend away from this is like a 20x multiple of time that I'm going to leave on the table at some point in the future. And I've got 5 kids now. So it's like, there's just, I gotta stay.
Congratulations. Wow.
Yeah.
That is mega mouths to feed.
Yeah. So it is quite a fun time around here for sure. So, what keeps you focused, like that kind of carrot that is driving me right now? I mean, what gets you up in the morning and gets you going?
Well, this business is crazy. It's feast or famine. And that's probably the biggest challenge about this business is that you never seem to be in that real happy space. You either have a massive decline in business, which has you worry that you'll never make it again, or you have so much business because of a big rate drop or whatever that you all of a sudden are overwhelmed. So it's one of those two things. I kind of broke this business up into 3 compartments, right? And number one is sales, and it's sales and marketing and basically letting as many people as possible know what you do and that you exist. And if they want your services, to call you. And that could be door knocking, that could be having happy hour events, that could be YouTube videos, whatever. The second is once you actually get the deal to do the transaction itself and not fall on your face, not close late, not have people get frustrated. And then the third, which is really important, which I think a lot of people don't invest a lot of time in because we're so busy with 1 and 2, is creating a system so that all of your closed people who close and are happy become a source of referrals to your business. So you don't have to spend all your time in section 1, right? Where you have this growing and you hit a critical mass in this business of closed clients where it just starts to feed itself and fold in on itself. And I finally hit that after, I think, 8 or 9 years in the business where you can accelerate that if you have a really good program of keeping in touch with your past clients and providing value and reminding them that you're there and that you'd like referrals and things like that. So that's as much a part of my business as the sales and marketing. So when I first got in the business, it was all part 1, right? I had no closed clients. I had really no idea how to do a loan, but good luck for me that I didn't even need to know how to do it because I had wholesale reps walking through the office every 2 hours saying, you have a deal? We can get an exception. What do you have? I'll craft it for you. Da, da, da. And it was just about getting a transaction and throwing it at the wall. And if it didn't stick, that's fine. There's another wall over here that'll take it and all that. So that all of a sudden, I spent a lot of time doing business development and sales and events. I'm a big proponent. I manage a team of loan officers now, and I tell them all the same thing. Don't do what I do. Do kind of what I do, but what works for you. So if you're not someone who likes to have a drink, likes to go to a bar, likes to hang around with a bunch of people in a crowded space while a game is on or something, don't have a happy hour event. That's stupid. Just because it works for me, because I love all those things, then I'm in my happy place there. So when I invite my clients and realtor partners to a happy hour event, it works for me. But if you're someone who likes to take walks in nature, organize that. If you're someone who likes to go play golf, do it there, whatever the thing is. But in 2006 and 7, when all those options got vacuum sucked out of the business, I was really lucky to be sitting next to a guy who was a mortgage technician, the best, loan officer I've ever seen in the business. You probably know him, Eric, over at Commerce, and encyclopedic knowledge of loans, massive control over his process and files. And he's telling the processor and underwriter how it's going to be and how it's going to be structured and why the line 72 from the, 1120 tax return makes it under this guideline. And I had none of that, but I had to learn it real quick. And so all around me in that financial crisis zone, there were loan officers who were the system and saying, I can't believe that underwriting's asking for this. This is ridiculous. This is bullshit, But I'm like, that's the guideline. This is the new world order that we're operating under. So I spent a lot of time kind of just reading guidelines and getting good at the actual crafting of doing of the loan. I think that's when it actually became a career. I was lucky enough to be able to doing a lot of people were flooding out of the business and getting frustrated. I started doing a lot of takeout loans for loans that were falling apart at closing. And this one real estate office in Oakland, Berkeley, in California here, the manager called me and she said, you're saving all our deals and most of them are with our in-house lender. Why don't you become our in-house lender? That was 2008, and that really shot me up. I was doing about 40 or 50 million a year, and then from 2008 to 14, I did right around between 90 and 120 million a year. It was all in that kind of number two bucket, just being good at doing the loan, which is, I think, really where it's at right now, still in this business,
So there's a dynamic shift when you sort of build a funnel, a lead funnel, a sales funnel that would drive deals into your pipeline. And then you had the knowledge to go in and execute and close those deals. Right. And then at some point, right, you had, 100 million a year in production that you needed to nurture after the deals close. And so in my mind, I think, people, they'd like to say sales, and you're talking about happy hours and relationship building and all that stuff. That definitely is a part of sales. But it sounds like marketing, and then tactician side you described, and then at the bottom, more marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. I divide sales and marketing into, marketing is letting people know that you exist. Sales is turning somebody into a client at the point of sale, right? And that occurs at a lunch with a realtor. That occurs on a Zoom call with a client who's evaluating 3 or 4 different lenders. At that point, we're in sales, and we are in the mode of providing the most value we can, demonstrable value. I think a lot of times what's happening a lot in this business is the commoditization of the loan officer. I was just on a mastermind with a couple of other LOs, and that was the topic, is how do we fight that? How do you prevent that? And Oxford University did a study in sales in the information age. It's got to be at least 10 years old now, but it's still totally true, is that there's been a massive shift in the digital age in the whole sales cycle, where we used to have to, as salespeople, we would take our product to the prospect, explain the product, explain why it's good for them, and then explain why it's better than the competition, almost even explain why they need it in the first place. All that's being done online before anybody engages you now, right? It's a vastly different scenario where if someone is considering my services, I haven't heard from them until they've Googled me, read my Yelp reviews, looked at my Zillow reviews, done all that, have decided that I'm worthy of a phone call. They've gone online, they've done all their research on interest rates. Where does it come from? What's a loan? What are the closing costs? So my phone rings, I answer, what's your rate? And that's the question, right? The prospect thinks that they have executed that whole process, which normally the salesperson would do. So the study found that in order to, you have to have a disruptor to that question. You have to be able to counter that question with something that the person who you're selling to doesn't know. And every single industry has weird game breaker, deal killer nuances that nobody knows about from outside the industry. You could do all the research you want on a used car, new car, brand new car, read car and driver, all that stuff. You walk out of the lot, the guy's going to hopefully tell you something that you had no idea about that is a game changer for you, right? And that's what we try to do. So the biggest mistake, I think, in our industry is that people think that we're selling them 360 payments over 30 years, right? That's not even what we're doing. we're selling the acquisition of the loan, right? We're selling the process. We're selling the ability to get into contract on a house with our pre-approval letter. We like to call, my team, we pre-underwrite every file. So we like to call our pre-approval the most trusted pre-approval letter in the area. And that's a big deal. That's something we take a lot of pride in, something the listing agents know about. And so, if there's a 0.25% difference in rate on $1 million loan, I can get you that for $10,000, and you're about to go and offer $1.2 million or $1.3 million on the house. If the seller countered you at $1.310 million, you'd probably take it and go into contract.
Yep.
If I counter you with that extra point, you all of a sudden freak out thinking you're getting ripped off, but it's the same thing. It's a cost of acquisition of the property. Being able to explain that to someone in a way that is understandable and relatable is really important, between our appraisal management company, the appraisal process, the value we provide, our reputation that you're piggybacking on. All of these things have a value. And I think in this industry, loan officers have the biggest challenge really communicating what their value proposition is. And they get stuck on 6.25% versus 6%. Versus saying, I can get you 6%, it just costs $10,000, and this is what you're getting for that, right?
And is that, so, you mentioned sort of reframing it in a way, right? That, well, how do you do that? Is it this what you sort of described to us just now is like the cost to acquire the property? Or?
Yeah, so it starts with ring. Hey there, I was referred to you by Michael. What rate are you guys charging right now? The response to that is any rate you want.
Yeah.
And they say, well, what are you talking about? And I say, well, I've got a rate sheet here with from 4.5 to 8.5, and I can either pay you to get a loan or you can pay us, or there's a middle ground, and we can have that discussion. And that really starts that conversation where they realize it's not just a number on a website, this is the rate, that this is a much more complicated discussion having to do with how long do you think you're going to keep the loan? How long, not the house, but the loan, what are your plans? What's your income situation? How is that going to be changing? What is your plan for the house? Is this a dip your toe in, or is this a dream house forever? Even if it's a forever house, look at us right now. Here we are in, April 2023 with a very high likelihood of inflation dropping over the summer, taking rates down with it. How important is it for you to get the lowest rate right now today versus December or January? Do we even care, right? So that conversation opens up with ring, what's your rate, whatever you want it to be. And they're like, what are you talking about? And so you have to be able to back that up without sounding like a huckster and explain it to them, and educate them on how the whole thing works.
So that's the key then, right? It's like you said, it's not selling the client, it's educating them on how that...
All education, yeah.
Yeah, so
all education. It's all letting them into the world. And by the time I explained to them, this is a very complicated business. I thought it was hard to do on the sales side. When I got into sales management for 3 years and I was actually running sales for the whole country, I had to interface with secondary, locks, selling the loan, dealing with post-close issues, dealing with lock extension fees, working with investors on things, working with our hedge area. It is extremely complicated. I don't think that I would ever actually want to own a mortgage company, quite frankly, because it is so, and on top of all of this, you have the compliance stuff with Dodd-Frank and all those things, and it's not easy. It's a very, very complicated business, and giving people a little bit of a look into the kitchen of how complicated it is, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. Because the American consumer makes this choice all the time, right? The American consumer has shown time and again that they're absolutely, positively willing to pay outrageous amounts for what they perceive value to be. How many of us are race car drivers, right? Nobody really needs anything much more than about a $15,000, $20,000 car to get from point A to point B, and yet the roads are filled with BMWs and Mercedes and all these other things that somebody has decided that, to get from point A to point B, I need to spend $110,000 on this particular vehicle or whatever, right? So the problem with us is the commoditization and the lack of explanation of what that true value proposition is.
So then you start with the educational process, and that positions you as like a trusted advisor in the process. And if you're able to build that connection with them and they want honest information as they move through the process, you've already put yourself as that mentor, you know?
Yes. And you have to share some, like the most effective thing in sales is not talking to people, but to put someone in a position where they can actually feel it, right? That's why most car commercials give you the perspective of the driver looking out over the steering wheel, right? They want you to imagine yourself driving it. So when someone's talking to you and they're deciding whether to use your services, imagine going with someone who you can't get a hold of on text or phone at a really critical moment when you need to have a pre-approval letter. You know, they don't have the app. When you need a question answered, when you want to remove your loan contingency in the transaction. Imagine a situation where the seller is demanding from you that you close escrow within 24 hours because you're a day past your contract close date and your deposit of $40,000 is at risk of being taken by them. Would you have paid that extra money or taken that 0.25% interest rate to have gotten keys and be moving in on that day instead of getting that hostile email and stressing out yourself and your whole family as you're wondering if you're going to close or not? Right. Those are scary times for people. I talk to these people in those situations all the time. I'll get a call 5 days out from closing saying, oh my God, my lender just told me that we don't qualify. Can you help me? My realtor said to call you. We jump in an emergency situation. More often than not, we're able to help people. Sometimes I even call the other loan officer and I say, what's the deal? Like, why can't you do this, that, or the other? Let's get this thing done rather than have them start over here. But there's a lot of bad, the barrier to entry in our industry is very low. And so there's a lot of, goofballs out there that still haven't taken that step to really understand the guidelines and stuff.
Yeah. And if you're like newer to the industry and you haven't spent the time to understand, then you need your own Eric, right? Like you referenced.
Yeah.
Eric, and just like find somebody to mentor you or to help you structure these deals right up front, because you're playing with the future of this home buyer
money. Yeah. I mean, you at least have to be good enough and smart enough. You got to be smart to succeed in this business. You just have to. You have to be smart enough to know what you don't know and to not guess and to know that likely wherever it is you're working, there's an underwriter, a scenario desk, an experienced processor, a great loan officer, someone somewhere where even if at the beginning of your career, you're just constantly saying, I'll get that for you. I'm not 100% sure, but I want to make 100. I think I have the answer, but I don't want to guess. I'm going to make 100% sure. I'll get right back to you. You at least have to know when to use that line and go get that definitive answer, save it in your knowledge base, and then, structure the deal accordingly.
So if you're new, right, you're newer into the industry and like you don't have all the answers, is it an acceptable thing to say, hey, I'm going to get that answer for you?
Yeah, that's your selling point. You're selling when you're new in the business. That was what I went with. Said, look, I just came into this business. You all know me. You know that I operate from integrity, but I am in this new business, and I've realized that there's not a one-size-fits-all for everyone. And I'm backed by an amazing team with a combined 50 years of knowledge in this business, and I can get any question answered, and I'm going to be your person to get that done, right? You have someone on the inside in the industry. That's what you're selling early on. And then as you get going, you can start to kind of talk about what you know. But if you don't know anything, you at least have to be able to align yourself with a team that can get those questions answered.
And so let's say that you kind of did this. You mentioned that to me, maybe in pre-interview, that, you had stepped away from originating full-time and you went into the management side, and you alluded to that with the 3 years that you spent running the whole sales division for a big company. But then and so during that 3 years, you mentioned that you you'd set your book of business aside and those relationships kind of moved on. And then you said, no, I'm coming back.
Yeah.
So you're starting essentially from scratch. What was like day one, minute one, mission critical?
It was so exciting, Michael. I can't even tell you, because what had happened was, so you don't go to the first guy that ever hired me quote unquote hired me. So I went and sat with my cousin in Walnut Creek and was helping her. And the office manager, there was a dual office management. One guy was managing like recruiting and the staff. The other guy was an originator, and he just did more business than anybody. And then he was a great guy, both great guys. And anyway, I walk in after a couple of months of helping her, and they just let me kind of hang out. And I said, look, I think I really want to do this. And at that time, I always wore a suit, right? It was my thing. And so I walked in with my suit, my briefcase. I had my resume all ready to go. And he sat there, he talked to me for a half hour, and I walked out and I was hired. Could have been a criminal. He didn't ask me one question about myself. But the one thing he did say, which it's just funny to me, is he said, look, in his half hour, so he goes, look, we're all a bunch of losers here. Everybody in this office has failed at something, and that's why they're in the mortgage business. Because nobody was sitting there in 7th grade dreaming of becoming a loan officer. And I'd be surprised if you're in this business 6 months from now, quite frankly. And I took that as a challenge, but it's kind of funny because nobody does go to, there's a mortgage college or anything. It's a great business and it's incredibly lucrative, but it's just not something anybody thinks. I did, like I said, I thought it was going to be horrible, but it turned out to be great for me. So I stepped into it, and I was self-taught for the first 10 years. And then I was helping other LOs, so they asked me to manage, and I took it, and for a variety of reasons, and then realized that managing LOs is a nightmare of its own. But the reason I was so excited was that I had kind of created step by step, imagine like a Lego house or something where the foundation's not right. And I built this whole thing, but there were all these things, but I couldn't change the tires while the car was moving.
Yep.
In those 3 years, everything dissipated. But as I went around and I was recruiting branches, recruiting loan officers, helping them build their business, I saw all these best practices happening around the country. And I'm like, God, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do a little bit of that. Well, that's a good client retention tool right there. Oh, wow, that's a really cool way of updating people there or whatever. That's a great way to process the file there. And so I had all this kind of building up. And after 3 years, I told the ownership, I said, I'm going to go back and start this thing over. But unlike when I first started, I didn't know anything. Now I had all this knowledge and experience and was able to really build that Lego house like rock solid from the ground up. And that was really exciting. Like I knew what I was selling, and I knew that I could implement a brand new process for I was doing like 1 or 2 loans a month maybe. So I could revamp the whole thing. It wasn't like we had a pipeline of 30 loans going like we did before. This was like great. And so I was able to really go back after it. And I think in that first, I dropped down from 100 million, 120 to like, I think that in 17, I did like maybe 15 million or something, like literally 1 or 2 loans a month. And then in 2018, I did 40. And in 2019, I did, I think right around 100. And then I did 2020 is when I came here. So I did like 220 when I came here. Then I did 300 million in 22. So it was, it was crazy just building it. But then I didn't feel like it still was crazy. It still required a lot of my energy and everything. But the system is sound. The process of, I've got a 9-person team now that supports me on the staff side and all of our loan officers. We do loan setup. We engage the client right away. We get people, pre-approved within 5 or 6 hours. We get every single file pre-underwritten after we do our pre-approval. We, as soon as the purchase contract comes in, we jump on it, and appraisals ordered, fees are gathered, this and that. Like the whole thing is a machine now, and we don't feel like the client gets anything other than great service. They don't feel rushed and confused. Updates automatically go out throughout the process at different milestones and all. So it's all kind of what I wanted it to be, but couldn't do because I was doing the business, right? So that was a really cool opportunity that I had in 2018 to just kind of rebuild it.
So part of the, piece you brought back to the table was the new knowledge that you collected from other officers. And that did include like how to organize your systems, how to organize your team structure, how to communicate with people. Talk to me on the team side. 300 million is a lot of production for a team to do.
Yeah.
So what does your team structure look like?
So we have loan setup. Okay. And the responsibility of the people in loan setup is that as soon as an application comes in, within 2 hours, they are to engage the client. We have a needs list. That's the other big thing is you have to prep files correctly. So exhaustive needs list based on what the scenario is for the client. The realtor gets an email from our setup team thanking them for the referral, letting them know that the application's in and that we're working on it. And then the borrower gets a thank you and gets an email with any additional documents that are needed after their initial upload. Once everything's in, it's reviewed again within a couple of hours. And if everything is there, loan setup, they're not our underwriter. We have an underwriting desk, a pre-approval desk as part of our team. So if it's straight W-2 pay stubs, bank statements, they have all the skills to be able to crunch numbers and calculate income. If it's something more complicated, they'll get the help of the pre-approval desk, and then we'll let the client know that they're pre-approved, and we'll let the agent know that they're pre-approved, and they get a link to set up a meeting with me or whoever the loan officer is to go over their numbers. After we have that meeting, I usually put together a spreadsheet for clients that they can use as a calculator on their own, because I don't have the pre-approve me app here, that they can use as a calculator, and it's got their limit of, what their max monthly payment is and any reserve requirements for jumbo, stuff like that. So they can basically look at properties and see what the numbers look like as they move forward. The agent then gets alerted about that, then they're off looking. If they need a letter, they just send a request in, and setup team will get a letter out to them, a pre-approval letter. If they have questions, want to run numbers, we can do that. My job in sales is to continue to grow the realtor referral database. So I always, we have a very specific offer process with the agents. We kind of coach them on this, is that, we want to talk to you about it before, and the contingencies and if we need them or not and all that stuff. We review comps together, and then we can do a 14-day close because every file's been pre-underwritten. Regardless of whether it's jumbo or conventional, we can get that done. Our appraisals are getting done within 7 days. So we simultaneously approve the file, get the appraisal, move to closing, and then call the listing agent and share all that with them. So don't make an offer without texting me the listing agent's contact info. And when you submit the offer, CC me on the email. We have very specific scripts that we use for the listing agents to tell them about what we do, what sets us apart from the other letters that they're looking at there, what we've done up to that point with the client. So that's the process of getting into contract. Once the offer is accepted, or if it's a refi, once we have a deal going, then it gets one more look from the pre-approval desk, and it gets handed off to our SLA, the senior loan advisor. These are licensed people who don't have their own book of business. Their job is to now take the client and handhold them to the finish. So that if I'm on a call like this and I get an approval right now, I don't, nothing's sitting around. So they're on it. They're going to send the needs list, conditions. They're going to look at that initial list, get everything. They're going to get on the phone with the client, introduce themselves, go over cash to close, what's needed, where's the money coming from. We have like a checklist sheet that they have to fill out that goes to the processor. So there's no miscommunication. I think one of the big mistakes a lot of people make here is they'll set up a file, they'll have the necessary docs, but they don't tell the story, right? So you put, you're doing a $1 million purchase with $200,000 down, and you put $600,000 of assets in there, a combination of retirement funds, bank accounts, and CDs or whatever, and you never tell anybody where cash to close is coming from, right? So processor gets it, and they say, oh, all we need is $200,000. Let's just trash all this.
Yeah, dump them that, yep.
And then the approval comes back, and you're getting asked for a source of funds and this and that, and you're like, I swear I put that in the file. It was there. And then you talk to your processor. She goes, oh, we didn't need it. Oh, we did need it. You don't realize that the program we're locked for, reserves are required, or that the borrower told me on the phone they were transferring $100,000 from this account that you trashed over to this other account. So filling out that form and really telling the story is the key. And then they take it from there to closing. And we have a whole post-close process that goes on. So the team structure is setup, processor, pre-approval desk, these SLAs, and then 2 marketing people, one who works internal, managing things like, we use Big Purple Dot right now. So she manages CRM, manages all of our internal assets and all that. make sure everybody's linked up and using them properly. And then we have one external marketing person who sets up events and coordinates events and, shoots things out like listing flyers to realtors and all that kind of stuff.
Those 2 marketing people are part of your 9-man team.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a very critical thing to recognize for those loan officers listening, is that 80% of your team is marketing, or 20%.
20%. Yeah.
I haven't been a loan officer in a couple of years, so plus I need a calculator anyways. But 20% of your team's, hypothetically, time, energy, budget is put into the marketing side, both front and back end. And so that's a huge thing to consider, because I know that when I talk to probably 20 to 40 new loan officers a month, not new to the industry, but new to me. Most of them would spend 0 on the marketing side.
It's tough because you're in the deal. So what I wanted to do was create a system. What can I do to just be rainmaking, right? Got to talk to the client. I haven't found a solution for that yet. So kind of every file stops with me, at least with a face-to-face Zoom meeting with a client to go over their situation. And I owe it to them, right? That's how I feel. Like my SLAs are great. I could probably have them take the client literally from start to finish, right? But I feel like that initial touch is important, because there's stuff that I can come up with after 20 years in the business that is helpful to them. Plus, I think they enjoy that. So anyway, but beyond that, what kind of a system can I create where I could just, with confidence, right, know that a loan is taken care of, know that a contract came in, go team, and I'm not doing anything from that point forward unless an emergency pops up, appraisal comes in short, something weird, that I'm not doing anything, and everybody's thrilled with the process. The realtors are getting communication from the team. The borrower's in the loop on everything. They're being handheld through the whole thing. What's it like for me as a loan officer if I can be at a broker's open and then just contact my marketing person on the fly and say, hey, I need you to send a listing flyer for this open house to such and such, and have it go and have it be done, right? We can send that to voicemail. And then just have all that happen. My email is being monitored right now while I'm on this meeting with you, right, by my marketing person. And so if there's anything critical that comes in, she shoots it around. She can answer most of the questions by now, but she's also deleting all the junk and stuff I don't need to see. So after this meeting, when I look at email, I'm going to have a hit list of things to do. So that I could spend all of my time just doing sales, right, going to events. And we had one in Castro Valley. This is a neighborhood south of here. It's in the Bay Area. Last week, we promoted on Facebook, first-time buyers, 46 people registered, 24 attended. These 24 people that were not referred to me, that I didn't know 2 weeks ago at all. I presented to them, and we took in 9 applications that night. I invited realtors there who picked up 2 clients each at the event, or thrill. Right. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to be doing versus, chasing W-2s and all that.
Well, I mean, that's where your highest and best use of your time is.
Right.
Because you have the most experience, the most knowledge, you're comfortable in that situations where you thrive. And so, but not every loan officer has that strength to go do that kind of work. So if you're not necessarily, let's say you're more of an introvert, right? How do you coach an introvert to go out there and get business?
So what I would invite anyone to do is to get better at what you're doing if you have the inclination to do it. If you're an introvert, it means that being in a large setting drains you of your energy, but it doesn't mean you can't present in front of a large setting, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So there are ways that you can prepare yourself and ways for you to manage those events and now, Elon Musk, I saw this on TikTok or something. It was one of those clips a couple of days ago. He said, college isn't there for education anymore, or information, or learning how to do something, because all that's free and it's online. When I got hit upside the head by the financial crisis, I was almost out of the business. I couldn't do a loan for several months at the exact moment that my kids were starting private school that September, right? Because I couldn't sell my house in Oakland and move to a better neighborhood because it had just gone upside down. I was scrambling, and I had to do a lot of this. Instead of freaking out, I listen to a lot of podcasts on sales, on managing energy, on manifesting what you want, reading a lot of books. And I had to really invest in myself, get better at sales dialogues, dig a little bit deeper on communication and messaging, and realize that I was making a lot of mistakes before so it's all out there. I don't think you have to hire a coach or anything like that. I think all the information you need is on YouTube and, books and Amazon, and that you can get better at doing what you do just by seeking out that information and then applying it. And my kids are in college now, and I tell them that, it's hard the first time. It always is. And it feels uncomfortable. But if you're not a little bit uncomfortable, then you're not growing, and then everything's going to stay exactly the same. And if everything's the way you want it, that's great. But if you're trying to make some change, make more money, have more loans, do more deals, whatever, you're going to have to get used to a little bit of uncomfortable. Just like when you go to work out a muscle, it's sore afterward because it's growing, right? So that's what you're doing. And, if you don't go to the sales gym, then you're never going to grow that muscle, right? So that's what I had to do.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So you spend a lot of your time out there prospecting for realtors then, like building relationships, referral sources, bringing value into that community. What sorts of people are a model match for you when you talk to a real estate? Are you just wanting to work with every realtor who...
No, that was the other great 2018 thing. I reset the book. I was working with a lot of people that I like everybody. I was working with a lot of people who were draining my energy, let's just say, okay? I am very careful now about choosing who I work with. And it's hard to say to someone, that you're not going to work with them, but I've had to do it in the past but you have a solution for them. I have somebody else who might be a better fit for you, or, I just don't know that this is a great fit. And some people get their feelings hurt and stuff, but you can't make a huge practice of it. I mean, part of being good at this business is having a wide berth of ability to work with a lot of different personality types, because we're business to consumer. You have the glorious joy of being in the business to business world where you are not dealing, when you're selling the pre-approve me app to a prospective mortgage company, you're dealing with their budget and their technology and things like that. It's not the guy's roof over his head and his wife and kids are screaming in the background while he's trying to, talk numbers with you. So business to consumer brings a lot of stuff, emotions to the table. And realtors are one step above that. I don't really even see that as true business to business in most cases. I work with some amazing agents who are business people. They manage their P&Ls. They have investment properties. They look at their business like a business. But I work with a lot of folks who are in it for the feeling of it. I've done their loans, and I know that they don't know how much they made last year. They just send me their taxes and are actually surprised at the number, either high or low. So trying to engage with those people is fine if they are respectful and they know that you're the expert and they don't get super bent out of shape and stuff like that. You gotta have a team, right? You can't ask somebody for proof of funds to close and the wire that they set leaving their Chase account, have them complain to the realtor that FM was asking me for docs again, when we try to prep everybody that we're going to ask for docs the whole way, and then have the realtor call you and say, what's going on with this loan? How come, I can't believe you're going back to them. How come this wasn't asked for up front? It's like, well, they wired money yesterday, so we need it now, right? So if you have to get into that kind of exchange, then that's a time suck, energy sucker. You need the realtor at that point to say, look, this guy knows what he's doing. I worked on a lot of transactions with him. These are the steps that are required, right?
Yep.
We're giving you $1 million. In exchange, we want you to upload docs. Is it really that bad? Honestly, is it really that much for $1 million? I'm not asking you to, run a quarter mile in less than 10 seconds or whatever. So.
You don't need your kidney.
Exactly. I'm asking you to log in and upload a document for me. Can't believe this.
Well, they've got trash can fires they're putting out. It's hard.
Right.
everyone's got their own stuff. It's easy to forget, right? Because you guys, as loan officers, we go through the motions of doing loans all day, every day. And so it's like a process in our mind. I mean, you built a great process there, but this is really what got me into like building the software platform too, is that like, I wanted my clients to feel like it was an easier experience for them. And there's certain things you can't.
You have to arm, but yeah, the beauty of what you do is you arm the client with the power to run numbers and have the loan in their hands, right? Yeah. That's great. You see how many people call and say, okay, we were going to offer $600,000. What would the numbers be like at 610, or something like that? Like arming people with that tool is fantastic.
Yeah. And so if you meet, let's say you do like a big event, you described you kind of did like an event last week, and you met 5 or 6 realtors. Are you just selecting the ones you think will drain your energy the least and doing follow-up with them and just letting the other ones go?
Yeah. So first criteria, we have market intelligence reports that we run where we're doing the event, and we want to get somebody who is not the top producer. I have yet to meet the top producer who does not suck your energy, right? So, number one, they are already teamed up with a fantastic loan officer, or they wouldn't be a top producing realtor, and they're married at the hip. They're going to dinner together, playing golf together, possibly sharing a house in Tahoe, families going skiing together, whatever, right? So
existence there, yeah.
Yeah, try to wedge in there is tough anyway. I'm looking for up-and-coming agents who are doing, on the buy side, somewhere in the 8 to 15 a year zone. We look at their profiles on Google and all that stuff. You can get a good feel for someone from how they describe themselves. A lot of people give their whole background before real estate. And, the numbers drive it. There's another filter there for personality type and style.
Yep.
And then we invite, and then it's a get to know you from there.
So there's a gateway just to even be invited to the event.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's just like any relationship, right? There's a mutual conversation where you're identifying, hey, does this person going to work or not?
Yeah.
And then from there, you're deciding, hey, do I want to continue to invest my time in helping this real estate agent understand more about the mortgage process and
grow their business?
Yeah.
Those people walked in and walked out with 2 to 4 deals each. And
huge.
You don't think that, and they started referring me business the next day.
Of course.
So, and so the people they picked up, who knows when they'll close, if ever, right? Because we have to pre-approve them. They have to find a house, get into contract, maybe save money. Those could be months down the road, but they started referring me buyers that day in their pipeline, and because they like the way we work, right? There's no quid pro quo. They don't have to do anything. I don't care, but they liked seeing how my team operates and how we take care of clients and all that. So that's what gave us the exposure, right? So
back to the home buying, just maybe we'll ask 1 or 2 questions here. You filled the room with first-time buyers, and your marketing person, your front end, she's the one who, I'm assuming it's a she, I don't know why I'm assuming that, but they placed ads online, they drove people into a funnel, invited them to the event.
So it's ads. We worked on increasing our social media. It's not like I have 1 million followers or anything, but I have enough in the community so we've got huge database of past clients. They all have family and friends who may be first-time buyers. So we promoted to them. We have our just organic online presence where we post everything from, I'll do whatever, a picture of me skiing to a video of talking about the Cal HFA Dream for All program or whatever, right? So I have a bunch of realtors who are tuned to that. So I go on there and promote it and tell them if they have anybody, know anybody, send them. And then we do a big push of the advertising on Facebook and Instagram and stuff of targeting it to, you can't really target real estate ads that much. You can't really get granular. There's some violations there. If you try to do that, they stop it.
Yep.
So basically, I think you can just do age and area. You know, you could basically say within a 50-mile radius of this, if people are over 18, essentially, that you can try to target them that way. And you just buy enough advertising to fill the room. Between all those efforts, you know, it ended up over the course of 2 weeks with 46 people registered.
And what was your budget for that marketing campaign?
It was $2,000.
I mean, that sounds like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, you had 4 or 5 people show up.
The whole thing was like 5. Like between the materials, the handouts, the personnel being there, the catering at the event. It was at a restaurant in a private room. The whole thing was like $5,000.
I mean, one of those loans closes in
break even, and
in your area. You're doing better than break even.
Yeah,
you know? And you said the most important thing was like the reciprocity of those new realtors coming immediately led to referrals that weren't even a part of
right out of there. Yep.
So I mean, that's
in a great week for me. I will take in somewhere between 10 to 15 applications, right? So the goal for me, like when I wake up in the morning, I want 2 loans a day, right? That's what I'm out there looking for before anything else happens. And I used to have this dream that once I get the 2 loans, I can take the rest of the day off, just work on it again the next day, but too much stuff pops up. So, you know, 10 a week, 40 closings a month is fantastic, right? So we're shooting for 10 to 15. And last week, the week of the event, we took in 36 new applications in 1 week, which was insane. The setup team chewed them up and spat them out. They were great. But now I'm backed up all week on these meetings of going over options and stuff for people. But it was really, it really gave a big boost to the whole thing.
That's the hard part, right? Because when you're busy, you're not prospecting.
Yeah.
So it's that cycle, right? Where you're boom, super busy.
That's why the team's there.
Yeah.
I want all my loan officers to just be selling, and they can't help themselves. They get sucked into the file. I overhear it all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I'm working on this thing. This guy, you know, his W-2 and his pay stub don't match. I'm like, dude, we have an operations manager overseeing the entire staff who's got it. Go get another one.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing you're going to do right now that's going to change what they're doing. Now we have 2 people on the team doing exactly the same thing at the exact same time to try to achieve the exact same result, right? So we want to just stay in that mode of sales gen.
Sweet. I love it. FM, it's been great to talk to you. I appreciate it.
It's been great. Sorry I ran overtime. I start getting excited about stuff.
Oh, I love it. No, I think we hopefully provided a lot of value here for the listeners. And as always, man, appreciate you and your time, and happy to see you.
Anytime. I'm happy to see your success, and anytime you need anything, let me know.
Okay. Thank you.